Hey there, Leo Ascendant. This is your Ascendant forecast from Monday, the 8th of December, taking you right the way through to Sunday, the 14th of December, 2025. Now, this is, I think, a step up from the energy of last week where we had the full moon in Gemini and all that brought with it. In this week, we've got a few things that I think are really going to be important. There's a continuation of the theme from last week. You know, I was talking in particular about how we were coming to the end of the grand water trine and how we would be coming into the last of the oppositions between Mercury and Uranus this week. We've also got Neptune going direct this week in the last degree of Pisces, the last degree of the zodiac. In fact, that's going to be dissolving some ideas that we've got. And we've also got Mercury moving forwards in the sign of Sagittarius. So lots to cover. If you're new here, my name's Louisa. Welcome to Feel Good Astrology. As ever, I'm going to start this by bringing up a little bit of gratitude to all the people that support my channel and support my shows. Thank you so much. I really love your contributions. Thank you. Now, if you are new here as well, let me just share with you that all of my forecasts are done using a Western tropical whole sign model. What that means is the charts I'm providing have have one sign per house. So you'll see there are these wedges here. Each of these is known as a house from the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, right the way through to the 12th. If you imagine it all starting at 9 o'clock, that's how it goes. If when you look at your birth chart, and I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you have seen your birth chart. If when you look at your birth chart, you've got the symbol for Leo and the symbol for Virgo in your first house, then it's also worthwhile checking out the Virgo forecast as well, because there's going to be some resonance there for sure. Anyway, these are the two charts that I want to examine. So this is the chart based on midnight, like 0 o'clock on Monday, the 8th of December, London time zone. And then this is the one for the following Monday morning at midnight, the 15th, in London again. And you'll see that the moon is going from almost in the sign of Leo, that moves over early on the day of the 8th, right the way through to the end of Libra. So we're going through a very sort of personal part of your chart. Very much to do with your identity and how you feel about yourself and your sense of belonging. So it's definitely one of those ongoing themes in this week ahead. Moreover, you can see it's the 10th, Wednesday the 10th, when Neptune goes direct at 29 degrees in the sign of Pisces. You can just see it here. That's where it is. Because 0 Aries is officially like the start of the zodiac. It goes all the way around until we get to 29 degrees in the sign of Pisces. Now, in truth, this is known as the ecliptic, and it's a continuous cycle. But a bit like the snake who is eating his tail, there is a mouth, there is a tail, and they kind of join together. You know, 0 Aries is the start of the story, and this 29 degrees in the sign of Pisces is super special. This is the end of a great big story. So this is very significant. And then we got Mercury going into Sagittarius. You can see that down here at the start, Mercury still in the sign of Scorpio. By the end, he has already moved into the sign of Sagittarius from here to here. So anyway, I'm going to start off by just talking through Monday and just kind of work through it in date order. So on Monday the 8th, and into Tuesday the 9th, when the moon is in your first house in the sign of Leo, you're likely to feel a lot more, I would say, hypersensitive, a lot more obvious of your comfort. When the moon is here, we tend to feel things a lot more in our bodies. We are a lot more conscious of how people are experiencing us. We're usually full of beans and slightly hyper aware of things. I would also say you're wearing your heart on your sleeve as well, so it's really hard to hide what's going on for you. And on Tuesday, we've got this energy, exactly. I mean, you'll feel it really coming in from Monday anyway, but Mars in your 5th house is exactly in a square to Saturn in the 8th. Now, this can really feel like a slap on the wrist, I think. You know, Saturn is very much about authority, and in the 8th house can really show maybe a matriarch or patriarch in your life, you know, someone that you might associate with authority and possibly being quite stern. And Mars here is really about your will and your desire to take action in your life. It's in particular about your children, in particular about things that are lifting you up and you feel very direct about, very clear about, and very passionately alive about. And so to me, it feels a bit like a conflict of interest. And so, yes, that could show up between you and a parent. You know, Saturn often represents parents. It can show some very strong tension. It also might show where you don't really feel much of an authority in your life, and that could be a little bit traumatic, a little bit difficult, especially given that the moon is in the 1st house as well. Remember, all eyes are on you, and it becomes you know, you feel very sort of hypersensitive. So, you know, I'd be very kind of a little bit cautious around any big sort of family disputes going on around this time, because you may well find that you react to them with a lot more sensitivity than normal, and a bit more drama, a penchant for drama for sure. And it could be really met with a whole heap of judgment, which you're not going to relate to very well whilst the moon's in your 1st house. So it might be just worthwhile just giving it a bit of a swerve for a couple of days and talking it through, like writing things down so you see things factually, or you see things slightly separate from you. All the while it's really in your body and you're feeling identified with it. It's very difficult to see any kind of reason aside from your own. I think the sooner you can get a little bit of distance from that, it will feel much better. You might also, I mean, hopefully nothing serious is going on, but if, you know, like Mars here is really showing where you feel in alignment with your best and highest good, you know, like you're passionate about things, you know, you might just find that you feel a little bit thwarted on that day, that you're trying to get on with things and it just feels like things from the outside that don't value what you're doing are just kind of thwarting things. So just be aware of that. As the moon comes into your 2nd house on the 10th, goes into the sign of Virgo, there's going to be quite a few movements during this time, actually. So, you know, Monday the 10th, there's 3 different things worth speaking about, and then 3 on the 11th as well, all in this 2nd house. Now, the 2nd house is where you value yourself and also where you rally around bringing in funds for yourself and you enjoy working and things. So there's a lot there about your sense of worth and value. Now, on that day, you've also got Mercury down here exactly in an opposition to Uranus. Now, this is the last one. I think there were 3 or 4. I did a separate video about this about a month ago, and, you know, tracing them, because when they first started, they were across Gemini and Sagittarius, and, you know, now this last one is happening in Scorpio and Taurus. To me, this is where you've got some kind of real sort of strong consciousness about your home, about your family, and yet there's something surprising coming from the outside. And so you might feel like you're shocked into making a decision about your family, or that some information is coming like from outside of what you can see and view. It just feels like there's maybe you feel safe at home and you're having lots of discussions at home, but it feels that outside information is infiltrating into your home. So it could be a little bit tense. But I also see that there is possibly a conflict going on for you, where you're not entirely sure how much time needs to go to your home and how much time needs to go to your career, your work, and your mission in life. And so you might just be feeling that tension between being a creator of your own life at home and also creating in the world. And it feels a little bit like at this time that the world is slightly riskier and home just feels a little bit more communicative. Now, these are both information channelers. You know, Mercury is like Hermes. He is he communicates between humans and the gods, and Uranus is very much about high level channeling and change that comes from a change in consciousness. So you might just find on the 10th some very strong acting consciousness is available to you. You know, all of a sudden things become really obvious, and you're like, aha. So, but you know, this 4th and the 10th house, these are very, very important houses. You know, this is, you know, underpinning how safe you feel, and also underpinning how much you can be yourself in the real world. So expect some interesting things, I guess, is what I would say. Also on this day, Neptune is going direct. He has been retrograde since the 4th of July, where he went retrograde in the sign of Aries. Now he's in the sign of Pisces. And so I do think there's been some stuff about the family that have come up. I've already mentioned a little bit about it at the start of this video. So you might find that, you know, that story that I was referring back to in terms of our ancestors, in terms of stern people and learning more about inner values. I know I spoke about this in last week's forecast, you know, in terms of it's not all about your contribution. It's also about the contribution of the family and how you all work together. And so I do think you're coming to the end of a big family ancestral pattern that you can actually release and start to dissolve away. To me, the 10th really feels like a time of revelation with this strong Uranus and Mercury energy in opposition, and also Neptune dissolving those ties and dissolving that ancestral story, kind of lifting up the veil. The fog disappears, it fades away. So I think there's some beautiful awareness coming up on, you know, the 10th and into the 11th. Now, in particular, on the 11th, we've also got Venus in this T-square with the nodes. I spoke about this last week. You know, there's tension around following what you're really passionate about. You know, maybe it's been difficult to earn money and find the flow doing it on your own. And maybe you're learning how to make money or manage money in flow with the people around you. But again, there's that theme of, do I have to have it all on my shoulders, or am I learning how to share? Am I learning how to play a bit more here? So you might feel a little bit out of flow, but you know, Venus is going to move beyond this setup quite soon. But I think it all adds in, you know, as you see these aspects layer upon layer upon layer, you get so much more richness. And then Mercury here is in an exact trine with Neptune, really epitomizing the fact that there is a whole new story. And actually, when you tune into it, there's almost like a new fragrance. It's not just a new consciousness, it's like a new intuition. You know, the consciousness feels very much like the mind, but the compassion, the forgiveness, to me, that's an emotion. You know, it feels more spiritual rather than kind of mental. I don't know if I've described that very well, but straight after that, Mercury goes into Sagittarius. And then I really think you can put your mind to what you love doing so much more. It feels like the family trauma or the family ancestral problems are just moving and shifting, and it's time for you to develop what you really like. And then we're coming up to the weekend. You know, we've got Friday the 12th, where the moon moves into the sign of Libra. Then we've got on the 13th, that's Saturday, we've got Mercury in an exact sextile to Pluto. To me, it feels like you can start working with your relationship, working with your big squeeze, you know, whoever you love to interact with the most. And it feels like you can create some beautiful creations together. I think there's a real sort of penetrating insight that is coming up between the two of you, which could be really amazing. And then we've got two more aspects, and these are both landing on Sunday exactly. And one is a little bit deleterious, and you could be left feeling a little lost for a moment. And then the other one kind of swoops in, and I think will bring you back up. And so let me just explain those. So the first one is Mars in a square to Neptune. Mars and Neptune energies can be very difficult to manage. They're really not that easy. In a square, you might start to feel suddenly disillusioned, disenchanted, because, you know, Mars wants to take action, loves taking action, and Neptune is just so like beyond the veils. It's really hard to take action when Neptune's involved. I mean, trust me, I've got Mars and Neptune in a conjunction, so I know about this planetary pairing. It can be really difficult to see and take action beyond the fantasy. And so you might be feeling suddenly like the wind has gone out of your sails. However, the sun comes into a lovely trine with Chiron. It goes exact after this energy. And I really think that there is this sense that when you start to express yourself fully without the ancestral patterns, without the ancestral expectations of how you should be, in your life, as you start to really fully express yourself, there's a beautiful healing that takes place. And to me, I feel like you feel safe to be vulnerably yourself. And so I feel like you're seeing yourself clearly beyond the fantasy now. Once those parental expectations, family expectations, you've kind of given up on those, let them go. And now the only expectations you need to worry about are the ones that you carry for yourself. So I think you're coming to a place of beautiful vulnerability. That is the medicine. That's the thing that allows you to open up more and more and into next week. So that's where I'm going to draw the line this time, Leo rising. If you find the way I look at charts helpful and you'd like me to apply all of this, to your chart, your personal chart, I'm looking for people to work with at the moment in a mentorship on a month-by-month basis where you can learn about your chart. We can kind of pull it apart, turn it inside out, upside down. It's really special how we can build on your chart knowledge and see what's coming up for you on a month-by-month basis. If this sounds like something you'd like to do, then get in touch. All of my details are below and also on my channel page. But I've also got my membership. And if you're wanting to learn astrology from scratch or join a small but growing community whereby we learn together and we chat together about things, then come aboard. Again, my details are below. There's also forecasts there Monday to Friday, and also relationship and also career forecasts for every sign of the zodiac every week. So there's a lot of support out there. So if any of that sounds like that's what you need, then just get in touch. But anyway, have a magnificent week ahead and hope to catch up with you all soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.